This morning we're joined by Edouard Ettedgui, who's the Chief Executive of the hotel group, right here in our First Up studio. Good to see you once again, Edouard. Good Friday to you. So how impressive is this? Sovereign debt crisis, right? Problems with Japan and the devastating earthquake and flooding, and yet you still boosted your profit by half. How did you do that?
Well, very kind of you to say so. Actually, 2011 turned out to be a much better year than I thought at the start.
Yeah.
And this is despite the natural disasters that, of course, affected our profit performance in Japan and in Thailand as well towards the end of the year. But a great performance, as you said, 52% up on profit. We also increased our dividend, and this is all due to a recovery.
Like
yes. Okay, this is all due to a recovery in the bank.
Right, and you know what I found really interesting is that you had significant contribution coming from London as well, which is mired in slow growth right now with the ongoing sovereign debt crisis, and then a successful opening of the Paris hotel. Is the European credit crisis affecting you at all?
Not yet, but then our mix of guests explain why.
Okay.
We have, in those hotels which are smaller than in Asia, around 150, 200 rooms, we have essentially people that comes on leisure. More than 50% of our revenue of people coming on leisure. Now, the corporate world, though, has been affected, I think, particularly in Europe.
Okay, so basically you're getting your profitability and these travelers that are occupying your hotels from outside of Europe and outside of the U.S. When you say it might impact and weigh in your results for this year, how much do you think that might depress your earnings? Well,
one has to be careful, but I must say the year started well. I mean, here we are already 2 months here in the 2012, and so far the trends that we have seen in 2011 are continuing. So far so good, but one has to be careful. One has to be careful.
What about here in Hong Kong? I mean, you did particularly well with your hotels. Iconic here in the city, but do you expect that performance going forward as well?
Yes, and around 75% of our profitability comes from Asia, and Hong Kong and Singapore in particular are driving the region.
What about Tokyo? We got to talk about your lovely hotel in Tokyo, which we saw occupancy drop, of course, after the devastating earthquake. Has it come back to pre-quake levels, though?
Just in December, actually, it did. But it collapsed to 20% occupancy in April, just after the earthquake. And then very slowly during the year it started to recover. If I just give you an idea of the impact, Japan usually receives 9 million visitors a year, which is small compared to Hong Kong, but 9 million visitors a year. And last year, only 6. Now, the government forecast for 2012, this is good news, that they will get back to 10 million. And if that is so, I think we are back to normal track. And as I said, December, we were back to figures. Exactly.
Right. Now, what about pricing in Tokyo? We just got the latest CPI numbers. Deflation still persisting in Japan. Does that impact your room rates at all? Have you noticed them coming down or not being able to have gained over the last years?
Average rates in Asia in general are pretty on the low side anyway.
On the low side.
This is because there is oversupply in many markets. This is not the case in Tokyo. Tokyo has the highest rate in the whole of Asia, closely followed by Hong Kong. So so far we have not seen rate collapsing in any way.
And something else that I find interesting, Edouard, going forward is that you have your Guangzhou hotel opening pretty soon.
That's the next one?
Yeah, that's the next one. Guangzhou ahead of Milan, ahead of Shanghai and Taipei. I know mainland China is your second largest source of business, but does it make sense that you're opening in Guangzhou as opposed to these financial meccas like Shanghai, like Milan, more familiar names and more for travelers especially?
Sure. I mean, actually, I like it the way it is because it's in crescendo. We will open closely for first Guangzhou, then Taipei, then Shanghai, and to finish with Beijing. I think it's actually quite good, and all that in a few months.
Right. So, and for the flooding in Thailand, the damage has already been.
That has not affected the hotel much, but of course, visitor arrivals stopped nearly, and so the last 3 months of 2011 were really affected. Now it's slowly back to normal.
Almost back to normal? Almost, right. And renovations for you, your hotel wasn't damaged by the flooding in Thailand?
Not much.
Well, that's good news for you. Edouard,
thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. Have a great weekend. Good to see you. Edouard Ettedgui, Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group says CEO.